Good morning, Secretary Vilsack. It's nice to be with a fellow Iowan here. Appreciate the work that you're doing at USDA to continue to serve American farmers, ranchers, and in our rural communities, which has been obviously a big topic of discussion. Want to start with a topic that's top of mind for so many Iowa farmers, and that is trade. Iowa is the second largest exporter of agricultural commodities, the number over $10 billion every year. And last week in a hearing with the Senate Finance Committee, U.S. Trade Rep Catherine Tai confirmed that tariff reduction is not a part of the trade agenda for the Biden administration. China and the EU are certainly taking a different approach. So my question is, knowing that you do agree that trade is so important to the health of our industry and Iowa's producers, how can USDA continue to leverage trade promotion programs to make sure that our American agriculture is competitive with some of these foreign, entities and foreign competitors, for lack of a better way of saying that?
We've actually had some success in trade reduction, tariff reductions and an expansion of the safeguard in Japan has led to more beef exports, tariff reductions on corn, wheat, and frozen pork in Vietnam, tariff reductions in the Philippines for corn, pork, and poultry, tariff reductions to expand opportunities and blending requirements for expansion of ethanol in Panama, expanded poultry access in the Middle East, and even cherries access in India. So there's been a concerted effort to try to look at individual opportunities to reduce barriers, which we've done. About $15 billion in new or preserved market access in the last couple of years, which is one of the reasons why we've had record export years. To answer specifically your question, it's about people, presence, and promotion, more trade missions. We now have 7 lined up this year. That's an opportunity for us to go. Our companies go, our farmers go, our ag commissioners and secretaries go to these countries, and they promote U.S. product. We're also working with the U.S. Trade Representative's Office in the Indo-Pacific Framework, economic framework. There's a trade pillar, as you well know, and we are anxious and interested in working with USTR to make sure that that trade pillar ultimately opens up more opportunities, especially in India. So there's a lot of work being done. And I would say the other thing is that we're attempting to make sure that if we have a trade agreement, that we actually enforce it, which is why we are taking Mexico and Canada.
That's my next question.
Under
is,
USMCA.
The work that you're doing with bioengineered corn and the challenges with Mexico, because obviously they need to fulfill their end of the deal there. So can you kind of give an update on the work that you're doing in that space to hold them accountable to the deal that they made under USMCA, so they're following through, so that our producers have that market?
Right. It starts with the market is currently still in play. They're still purchasing the yellow corn. There's an issue with white corn, but there is still 99% of what we sell to them, 96% of what we sell to them is yellow corn. They're still purchasing yellow corn at pretty significant clips because their livestock industry needs it. We have started the consultation process, which is the first step. There are a series of steps under USMCA.
For the challenge process. Yep.
The expectation is that we will go through the entire process and ultimately compel them to reverse this decree, because it goes to the fundamental aspect of our trade policy, which is that we believe in a science-based regulatory system. If you inject culture, if you inject other non-scientific issues into that relationship, you don't have a relationship. And so it's really, really important that we continue to push this. Our Canadian friends, we've now gone to the second consultation on dairy.
And please continue to hold them to those, put their feet to the fire,
intent.
because ultimately that is, that's the livelihoods of Americans on the line, truly. And I would also encourage you to continue to prioritize, and if you'd be willing to follow up with a list of the places where you have found good ground in reducing tariffs. I think if you can share that list with my staff, that would be helpful, so that we know kind of where the work has happened in that space. And I know there's already been a conversation today about avian influenza as well, and you mentioned CCC and the role there in using some of those resources. What do you see as the most major challenges in battling that going forward, both for our producers and with the programs that you have in place?
Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be episodic. I think it's going to be more of a constant threat that we deal with. So I think there are three issues. One, we're working with the industry to make sure that they have biosecurity plans in place and that those plans are implemented. And I think we've seen success from the way things unfolded in 2014 to the way they are unfolding now. There are a lot of backyard problems, which we're going to continue to have, but the commercial operations have done a pretty good job of trying to contain this. So first, biosecurity and implementation. Secondly, taking a look at the design of these facilities in terms of airflow to make sure that we minimize the risk of transition and transmission. And then finally, continued work on vaccines. We're not anywhere near where we need to be, if you will, in terms of we don't have a solid vaccine today. We have a number of options, a number of opportunities. But even if we got a vaccine, we don't have a commercial producer of that vaccine, and we don't have international acceptance of the notion
That
of
could put our
vaccination.
markets at risk, obviously, for our
Right,
products too. So
right. So we have significant work to do, but eventually, hopefully we get to a point where we provide some degree of response.
thank you, Mr. Secretary. I yield back.